Very good morning to you. 6 on the nose right here in Nairobi. This is K24 this morning. We'll be looking at the big stories as always across your dailies, but also measuring the current political climate. Where are we in terms of the politics? Where are we in terms of the economics as well? We've had a lot of talk about bottom-up economics, about rural-urban migration and how to deal with that, how to revitalize the civil service. But as a whole, how's the economy performing so far? And as we get into an election year as well, what does that portend for the economy at large? All of this under a cloud of a pandemic, which is COVID as well. So we'll be having that discussion right here in studio, a discussion that you're part of, by the way. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Welcome to the show. My name is Jeff Mote. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, what we do is look at the dailies, see what you're waking up to as far as your front pages are concerned, and then from there, I'll get to my panel as we discuss the pertinent issues of the day. So straight from here, let's find out what you're waking up to as far as your headlines are concerned. Okay, front page of your People Daily. This was a big event yesterday, of course, as I spoke about Raila making inroads into the central region. Raila makes his mountain pitch. They're calling it a charm offensive. Accompanied by family and a host of governors and MPs, ODM leader uses musicians' event in Murang'a to explain himself as a friend of central Kenya people. As you can see right there, doing their customary jig, as politicians usually do at this particular point in time. But in between the songs, there's a bit of politics that also was weighed in right there. This was the big story yesterday and makes the front page of your People Daily this morning. Also in the PD, nowhere to hide in new CCTV policy threat. State to have direct access to what you do in office, hotel, gym, and other public facilities. You can find this as well in your copy of your People Daily, that on page 9. And where does that leave the right to privacy, and how do they tread that particular thin line? You can find that as well in your copy of your PD. Also in the PD, major boost as Uhuru bags 20 billion shillings for legacy projects. As you can see right there, even during the conference of the UN climate change, he was also trying to strike deals and talking about how Kenya is indeed a hub for investment for the UK as well. And indeed, there have been some pledges made. You can find this particular story as well in your copy of your People Daily. Let's scroll to the top and see what you have right there. This, of course, matters politics. Vicious fight over Ruto's running mate. Mount Kenya politicians believe the post will solidify their 6 million votes, but others say the region has had its fair share of top leadership positions and should now opt out. That has been a key question as far as this particular formation is concerned. Who becomes number 2 in this particular outfit as they move forward? Because as it seems, at least as of now, Ruto is a clear number 1. Who's his running mate and who gets that particular ticket? That's a question that everybody's trying to answer, and as politicians adjust for that position, you can see the PD calling it a vicious fight indeed within this particular camp. You can get yourself a copy of your PD. The number that you dial is *550*4#. It's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. So once again, *550*4#. Let's see what else we have in your papers this morning. NASA fallout. Raila's 5 options, they're calling it at this particular point in time. Where does he go from here? Does he conclude the deal with President Kenyatta, with the Jubilee Party, and forge a new coalition moving forward? Does he rebuild NASA and court new allies and hope to reap from the One Kenya Alliance fallout that will take place? Does he capitalize on what's happening with NASA right now and move forward to join the One Kenya Alliance? That's another option that's on the table for him. Just at this particular point in time, just looking at the various options he has, or does he do a deal with the deputy president? Some political analysts have said that's not really off the cards as far as politics is concerned. So where does he go from here? Because clearly he has to make a decision on how to move. ODM leader Raila Odinga is a political genius who has always had a way with coalitions. With the anticipated dissolution of NASA, his competitors are closely watching him as he ponders his next move. You can find that in your copy of your Daily Nation and the options that the former PM has. Also, audit reveals 4 billion shilling loss at Uwezo Fund. These funds, of course, put in place in order to stimulate some economic activity, but clearly not doing exactly that. You can find the details of this story in your copy of your Daily Nation. As you look at what's happening economy-wise, we're also keeping a keen eye on the politics as well, as Shujaa bow out with heads held up. Special Olympics report in your copy of the Daily Nation on what's happening in Tokyo as the Olympics are currently underway. UK boosts Big Four agenda with 20 billion shillings. They're also set to donate 400,000 vaccines as well. This, of course, courtesy of the talks that are happening in the UK currently. You can find that on the back page of your Daily Nation this morning. Let's see what the Standard has for you this morning. Revealed how NASA will share millions. This was a contentious point, of course, and some say this probably is what really catalyzed the breakup of NASA. We spoke about this for quite a while, couldn't meet eye to eye, and now everyone is going the separate ways. But even as they do that, the four estranged NASA partners will share 153 million shillings out of the 489 from the political parties fund after ODM had a change of heart, even as Raila yesterday stormed the president's backyard with an eye firmly fixed on 2022. But even as they share this particular monies, some say it might be too little too late as far as the coalition proper is concerned. As you can see right there how it's being shared out. ODM gets the lion's share with 55% of the cash. That's around 187 million shillings. Wiper, Democratic Movement, gets 20.6%. That's 70 million. ANC gets 43 million shillings. Ford Kenya gets 36 million shillings. And Chamacha Mashinani gets 3 million shillings right there at 0.9%. And that's how they split the orange, so to speak, as far as this particular monies are concerned. You can find the details of that in your copy of your Daily Nation. At this point, let's also see what's happening as far as your education is concerned. This is the first week of children going back to school. Of course, there's been a lot of concern as teachers also say they're not feeling up to standard as far as COVID-19 management is being carried out in the schools, but also academically carrying out this particular new syllabus, the CBC syllabus. They feel they're not fully competent as far as that is concerned, and that's why the Standard is also talking about time running out on the CBC school reforms. You can find this story in your copy of your Standard as well, and that is on page 10. Let's see what else we have in your papers this morning. Look at the Star's front page. Let's scroll up on that. Mount Kenya Top Guns endorse Raila for 2022. Odinga declares birth of new dawn, spearheaded by him and Uhuru. Handshake team traverse country from next week. So after this, of course, next week seems to kick things into high gear as they go around preaching their new message. And as he's on a charm offensive, ODM leader faces off against DP Ruto for central vote block. We've seen the DP make serious inroads in this particular area, and this, of course, was to counter that as well. How successful that will be, only time will tell as it plays out. You can find that in your copy of your Star this morning. Let's see what else we have as far as your Business Daily is concerned. Nginyo children risk jail in 4 billion shilling estate fallout. Judge accuses 2 of Tycoon's children of using his assets without legal nod. Of course, this has been an issue of contention. There's been a push and pull on this particular one. You can find the details of this particular case on his estate in your copy of your Business Daily. Also in the Business Daily, judges keep VAT on fuel M-Pesa tax up until November. Find the details of that right there. And also the Communications Authority to cut mobile call rates after 6-year freeze. Some reprieve for those who will be using that particular service. You can find that particular story in your copy of your Business Daily. So that's what you're waking up to this morning as far as your papers are concerned, right across your papers this morning. But here, we're also talking about the current economic climate. Where are we? We're seeing a lot of politics going on. What happens to the economy? We're talking about jobs. Where is that? Businesses as well. Where does that stand at this particular point? We have that discussion coming up right here. Don't go too far. Good morning, of course, and as you join into this particular discussion, you can be part of it. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. We'll be having panelists both within studio and without. Let me start in studio, joined by George Mboro. He's the CEO Africa Mizizi Homes Limited, of course, and a friend of the show. No stranger to this particular panel. Morning, George.
Morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Also joined by our resident economist, Reginald Kazitu, karibu sana.
Thanks, you.
Welcome and thanks for being on the show this morning.
Welcome.
Asante sana. We'll also be joined by Kamau Ngugi. He's the CEO of the Defenders Coalition as well. He'll be joining the conversation via video link as we discuss these particular issues of the day, not only in the papers, but economics as well. I want us to start off briefly by just looking at the front pages of the papers this morning before we turn to economic matters. Reggie, I'm sure even as an economist, we do know that politics usually feeds into what the economy will, how it will affect the economy. From where you stand, you've been seeing a lot of politics happening, a lot of eyes facing the mountain. What's your take on that, and does it have any actual effect to how the economy is performing?
It actually does, especially when the incumbent is not running in 2022. So politics becomes even more interesting because you have a new regime that will come into power. So there's what we call policy uncertainty. You don't know what policy is going to come into power. So even if you're a business person investing or trying to come in to invest in the country, trying to figure out the new government that is going to come in, are they going to change the tax structure? Are they going to change their focus on, the president is focusing on the big four, the people who are going to come, what are they going to focus on? So there's a lot of policy uncertainty, and it becomes key to try and figure out who's the most likely person to win come 2022, and what are the economic policies. So it is actually very key to listen more on the economic policies than the political rhetoric that goes through, but actually figure out what are they going to try and pursue going forward. So right. it is interesting, and we hope Kenyans vote for the person that will be best for them going forward.
Okay, yeah. We're talking about some of the economic policies we've had them talk about. George, even as we stand at this particular point, you've seen a major boost in terms of deals that have been struck in the UK yesterday. Part of it also affordable homes being thrown in there. Sure. And I mean, you're the CEO of Mizizi Africa Homes. And it's funny because when this story was doing the rounds online, I saw very many Kenyans asking, but where are these affordable homes? We are hearing them, we hear them being spoken about by government, we hear them being launched, but we don't see them.
Yeah, thank you very much. And for sure, we saw that the government, the Kenyan government or the president struck that deal, which is very commendable. And you'll notice that the deficit that we have is very big. So there's so much that needs to be done. So the little that is being done is seen as a tip of the iceberg or a drop in the ocean. So I believe I've seen the project the government is doing, like here in Pangani, and it's moving at a very high speed, which is very commendable. What I can encourage the government is to keep up what it is doing, and also encourage, I have seen even in that deal, they are talking so much about the PPP, that is the public-private partnership, which is something that is very commendable. And if the government of the UK government and the Kenyan government can actually encourage the partnership between also the private players, private developers like us, Mizizi Africa Homes Limited and others, I'm sure the deficit is going to be covered within a shorter time, and it is going to be possible because the deficit is very big, like 2 million houses are needed, and every year 200,000 units are needed. So if you add up that total and with the increase every year, you'll see the deficit is quite big, so a lot needs to be done. Yeah.
And because there's something Reggie has spoken about in terms of that policy continuity with who will come in next, do you think this particular pillar of the Big Four in terms of affordable homes could make it into the next regime with how you're seeing things? Does it have enough momentum for our next regime to come in and be like, okay, fine, this is working, it has a lot of momentum, let it move on? Are you also cautious to see how it will play out?
Yeah. The Big Four agenda is something that was drawn from the Vision 2030, which is a blueprint that was started in the Kibaki regime. And that blueprint has helped the Jubilee government to at least come up with its policies. And I believe Vision 2030, after we are done with this regime, the Uhuru Kenyatta, the next regime, actually now people who will be electing, they should be telling us what are they going to do so that we look at the Vision 2030, because that is a vision that people sat. Actually, most of them were business technocrats, people who sat down, and that thing is appreciated all over by everyone. Everybody appreciates the Vision 2030. So I would like to hear, like, the politicians who will be wanting to take over the presidency, elective posts, what would they do with the Vision 2030?
Right.
And after 2030, we now need to start sitting down, because Vision 2030 was drawn some times back, and now we are nearing 2030. We need also now to come with another vision, 2050. And that one, maybe let's say 2050, for example. And that one should be more inclusive. Now people are more enlightened. People now need to know where the country is heading. So people should be more included in the making of the vision 2050. And the policies that will be made by the coming government, they should be able to align with the blueprint of the economy. Yeah.
Okay, let me bring in Kamau Ngoge as well. He is the CEO of the Defenders Coalition. Morning, Kamau.
Good morning.
Karibu sana, welcome on the show. From where you stand, because we're seeing a lot of politics right now, how do you feel that's affecting our economic environment as well at this particular point in time?
Yeah, good morning to you and good morning, viewers. I think we've had a very challenging year, and maybe the year is just a hallmark of a challenging economic environment that we have had to endure throughout. I think the COVID has been one of the biggest devastation that globally we have been faced with. The level of inflation in our country, and politics that started too early, before even the critical pillars for development had been implemented. But even worse is the fact that there has been massive corruption and policies, economic policies that are never concluded, that are never implemented. So indeed, what the COVID and other factors have done is basically like an icing on the cake, which has made it difficult for every Mwananchi to survive. It's extremely hard. And the challenge is that the outcome of this kind of economic situation is that we've seen more and more human rights violations taking place. Because of youth unemployment, you find now, instead of dealing with the issues of youth unemployment, we find more police killings taking place at the informal sectors. Of course, it's blamed on crime, but there is crime that has something to do with the lack of opportunities for everybody. Increasingly, we find parents that are unable to take their children to school, and because there is basically no opportunities for them, whether it's at the Juakali sector, the returns are quite low. So I think that we have lost great opportunity, because at some point the economy was growing very well, almost approaching 6%. But now we're in a situation whereby we have stagnated or actually gone down. So I think that with the upcoming election this year, of course, we can't hold anyone to account because they'll be busy looking for positions. But we, as a citizen, of course, we will serve in the next 1 year. But the hope is that as a democratic country that regularly look at the new leadership, we still have an opportunity. I think I've heard strong names being mentioned, some of them with a background of economic and business background. Others, of course, will be trying to tell us what's different that they're going to do because they have been in government. While others have a reform agenda, but we don't sure about the economic line. But I think we just have to be hopeful, because as a country, again, we can't afford to give up.
Okay, and I mean, hope has to be indeed kept alive. But at times you wake up and see what we have on the front pages of our dailies, and the hope is, it's hard to keep alive and as optimistic as we might be. Reggie, page 9 of the Daily Nation, talking about an audit revealing 4 billion shilling loss at Weso Fund. If you go into the story, it's about misappropriation, how they procured tires at 3-4 times the price, as far as that's concerned. Bad financial record keeping as well. And anytime the Auditor General talks about this, it's the same story recycled over again in a different state agency or ministry. Can we, at least bring this down? You know, now looking at this realistically, I wouldn't say eliminate it completely, but how do we reduce this to a level where we're not talking about 4.1 billion shillings in losses from one entity?
I think, Jeff, when it comes to state enterprises, the day we remove political patronage in the running of these institutions and literally competitively just hire people to get the jobs who are competent and put competent. I'll give an example. Safaricom is as good as a state entity. Yeah, government owns close to 40-something%, and it's run well. Why? Because the government has removed themselves from running of Safaricom, or influencing the running of some. They have some influence, obviously. They have board seats, but the decisions are made on commercial terms and commercial basis. So when you start funds like Uwezo and all these other funds for women, youths, and all that, if you then don't get people that have a passion for the sector or the group of people that you are wanting to help, someone who has done a lot of work in that space and industry and has shown desire to actually see youth benefit or women benefit or less privileged groups actually benefit, then you'll always have a problem. But someone comes in there for commercial purposes, commercial whatever, the guy wants to make some salary, because their salaries are also not that high, they start looking for innovative ways of making money. So pay the people in these areas competitive salaries. That the desire to steal, I know human beings are human beings who still want to steal, because there are people that have billions who are still stealing now, but the desire to steal, one, is removed. So I think it goes to the recruitment process, so that they stop being political appointment projects. And that's the problem that has behaved most of our parastatals, is that people that are put on the boards, CEOs, top management, are all political appointments. And once someone is appointed there through a political appointment, there's normally an agenda. Right. So if someone is appointed there and they want to milk money that comes from there for political purposes, then you'll find they will put someone that they can influence and whatever. So the concept is right, finding a way of getting cheaper funding to these groups. The same way you have AFC for agriculture, you have ICDC for the corporate space. If these institutions actually are run properly, most of the problems that we have on SMEs can't get funding, youths can't get funding from commercial banks, you will have created an avenue where the government can actually channel funding to these people without even having to go to credit guarantee schemes. You can actually do it through these institutions. So if we remove the political patronage in recruiting on the people that run these organizations, you'll find the idea is right, but just the execution which is not correct.
Okay. George, because when you look at this, such figures might seem far removed from reality, but this affects our bottom line as an individual in a home, as a person running a business, because it's your 16% VAT that you're paying, it's your corporate tax that you're paying that funds these particular projects. Then you come and see 4.1 billion shillings was lost.
Sure.
I mean, as a business person, I'm sure it hits you a certain way. Sure. What suggestion do you have in terms of even running an enterprise? Because that's what you do. Where do we get it wrong? Because Reggie says it's political issues that bedevil these particular entities. What's your take on running of state agencies and parastatals as well?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. And in Africa, and in particular in Kenya, our biggest problem is the problem of corruption. That is what is ailing our country. And now these are things, now we as people, because we have been given the power by the Constitution, and the people now are becoming enlightened on trying to understand what happens in these parastatals, government institutions. It is a high time we as the now people start joining hands and starting asking questions, start asking for accountability. Because if the taxes that the Kenyans pay can be very well accounted, I'm sure we are going to seal some of these loopholes. Because some of these loopholes, as my colleague has said, these are people looking sometimes for money. They are looking at the next general election where they can get some money to do the politics. So if we Kenyans demand for accountability from all these government institutions and from the government itself, some of these loopholes are going to be sealed. And also, as he has said very well, that we should remove the issue of having people appointed by some political people who have some, they have some interest behind to get some money or to milk. Yeah, so we Kenyans now need to wake up and ask hard questions, ask for accountability, and the people who are there who have been given those positions, they have also to be held accountable. So if you are in an institution and you have been given some work and somebody is even pushing you, and you remember another person who bore the burden, you'll be also not be have to be pushed by the politicians.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to stand because you'll have to bear the consequences. So
Okay.
people have to be held accountable, and let there be, I have seen when judges are being given jobs, there is that public participation, interviewing. Those people should be now be interviewed in public,
Mm-hmm.
and also be held accountable once
Okay.
they get those positions. Yeah.
Okay, let me get to Kamau before we get to our first break, because when we say about questioning power, that really falls within the Defenders Coalition purview as well. How do we deal with this? Because everyone agrees that corruption is the biggest problem that we're having as an economy, but it's the hardest thing to deal with. Where do we start? Kamau, if you can hear me. Okay, you've muted your microphone, Kamau.
Sorry about that. If you
Okay.
can you repeat the question?
No, I was asking because we all agree that corruption is the biggest problem that we are facing. How do we deal with it moving forward? Because we can see waking up to headlines of 4 billion shilling losses from one fund, replicate that across different entities, and you realize what effect that has on the economy as a whole. How do you deal with that? Because everybody agrees this is the big issue. We solve this, we're literally home and dry.
No, I agree with you and my speakers there that one of the biggest challenge is something that that has become a political marketing tool. Everybody says I'm coming on board to fight corruption. But unfortunately, that has been the most evasive challenge that we have in the country. And I think it starts with the kind of leaders that we choose. And my colleagues there have mentioned that then the political leaders go ahead and choose their political cronies to run various parastatals and other state institutions. I think the first thing is for us as citizens to exercise our duty, which is to elect leaders that will meet our aspirations. And then from those leaders, of course, they need to have the kind of track record for prudent use of their own resources and the integrity. From that, then we're going to get most likely leaders that will have the desire to change the country and to use the resources available in the right way. So right now we are confronted by massive debts as a country that all of us have to pay. So for sure, I agree that all of us as citizens must be on the lookout and push the institutions that have been empowered by the Constitution to deal with corruption. I'm talking of the DCI enhancing the capacity to prosecute, but not to prosecute just people that are on the other side of the political divide. It's to prosecute everybody so that we can fight the dragon called impunity. Because if today you know that you will steal and get away with it, then you will steal again. But if you know that if you steal, there is a chance that you'll be arrested and you'll spend your time in jail and then you'll not access the resources, then you'll have the fear. So I think that we need to empower the investigative agencies, both the anti-corruption unit, the DCI, but also the courts, so that because most of the time the DCI will do their job, the prosecutors will do their job, but then cases will stay in court for many years. But the challenge also, of course, it also depends on the quality of investigations. So for you and me as citizens, we have to be vigilant and make sure that the kind of leaders that we choose, from all the way from the MCA level to the women rep, to members of parliament, to the governors, they have to be people with the kind of track record. But unfortunately, we get excited by people who have nice slogans, sloganeering that basically cover up for the challenges that we have, they don't speak about the challenges that we have. And even when they get in power, we lack the power, we are unable to remove them or ask them to be accountable. So I think the key issue is how citizens wake up and elect the kind of leaders that will meet their aspirations with a track record of integrity. And those, for example, who have been in government, is looking at their track record and ask them to stop the slogans, but tell us, when you have the opportunities, what development record can we count on to tell us for us to elect you again? How did you make sure that the resources that are entrusted to you are prudently used. And now from there, then we are able to make the kind of choices. But I think, as I mentioned, I think this country, we have to have hope. And that's why I encourage people to look at the record of our leaders before we go ahead and cast our votes.
Okay, Kamau, I just want to jump in there. I need to cut you short for 1 second because we need to take a brief commercial break. We'll come back and pick it up from there as well. And of course, even as you look at that, you need some breaking down of some of the slogans that we've had. As Kamau says, a bit of sloganeering going on. So we try and break that down right here. Don't go too far. This is the Morning Review on KTT4 Television. We'll be right back.